it's hard for me to just come to the realization that I'm never going to know what happened to him. What happened to him? How did this happen?
Pain I had, that shit was cap. Remember I was down on my ass, them niggas laugh. Now they see me doing better, wanna act like they was there.
If you watch my giveaway video, the last one I did, that was like a month ago. There's nothing in that video to indicate that cat's gonna be dead in a month. Nothing.
Almost ran out of patience, I was losing myself. Rob me and wouldn't help, you must be fooling yourself. Counting hundreds after hundreds in another big road. All these bitches telling.
So normally for the giveaways, what I do is I write everyone's name down on a piece of paper and I crumple it up, I put it on my kitchen floor, and I sprinkle catnip on them, and my cats dive into them and spread them around, and whose ever name gets pushed out of the perimeter first, those are the winners. And if you watch the videos, I mean, it's obvious. Marv is the star of the show. He's really the only one who's proactively going in the catnip, doing anything. So with this giveaway, all I did was just pull people's names out of a hat, basically. So what I'm going to do is tell the story of what happened with Marv, and I'm going to put the prize winners down on the screen, letting you know what it is that you've won. And at the end of the video, I'll put up my email address, and if you could email me your name and shipping address, I'll send you your prize. So it really started last month with basically a cough. One cough, that's all it was. And I said to my girlfriend, I'm like, he just coughed. And it sounded like the cough that Pond makes before he was diagnosed with asthma. So I bring him up to the vet, and sure enough, they x-ray his lungs, and there shows that there's something going on with the lungs. And the vet said to me, it's asthma, but it doesn't look like a typical asthma, because asthma looks like a white cloud pattern in the lungs. And when you x-ray lungs, healthy lungs, air comes up as nothing. So the lungs should look black. But his came up as like a spider web pattern in his lungs. So it wasn't typical of asthma. So she said, okay, we're going to give him a depot shot, which is cortisone or steroids. And, this should help. And if it doesn't help, bring him back. But it did help. He seemed fine. But last week, he was breathing so fast and he was making a purring sound. But just because a cat is purring doesn't mean that they're happy. It also could mean that they're in pain, they're distressed or afraid. And he was just breathing so fast with the purring. So I rushed him up to the vet, and the vet, as soon as I took him out of the crate, she's like, oh, that's not good. So they bring him back, they x-ray him right away, and she says to me that his lungs are filled with fluid. And she said, Tammy, there's only really two reasons why this would happen. One is if he's in heart failure, and two, if he has some type of cancer. And we can't treat him here. You have to take him to basically a cat ICU, which is down like an hour away from us. So I have to book it down to this ICU because he can't breathe. There's no way for him to get oxygen in. So he suffered that whole trip down there. It was terrible. And I get him to the kitty ICU, and they put him into an oxygen tank right away, so at least he's able to breathe. And they run tests on him. They do an EKG. And they find that, thankfully he's not in heart failure, but they're not really sure what's causing this. So they run a battery of tests, and everything is coming up negative. And they release him back to me the following day. And she says that, she's going to put him on an inhaler, which appears to be helping him, antibiotics, steroids, of course, and something for his lungs in case he has some worms in his lungs. And I really thought he rallied. You know, my girlfriend and I were like, we really dodged a bullet here. Like, he's okay. He's getting better. Thank God. You know, he's going to be okay. What would we do without him? And on Thursday, we went to give him medication, and he couldn't walk. I pulled him out from under the bed to give him his inhaler, and he couldn't walk. So we rushed him back up to the vet, and the vet x-rays the lungs. They look okay, but she runs blood work, and she sees that he's severely anemic. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, great, let's get him some iron, and, you know, we can help him, you know, he'll rally again, and we'll fix him. But she said to me, no, this is different. This is, last week he came in and his red blood cell count was 45. Today it's 10. She's like, the only thing that you can do, because we can't help him here. I live in a small town. It's like a podunk vet. They don't have anything at those facilities. I have to take him somewhere else. Is if you bring him back to this ICU, and they'll give him a blood transfusion, but I suspect it's leukemia. So they'll have to get a sample of bone marrow and find out what kind of leukemia. And she's like, this is going to be a never-ending process. This will be his life until he's no longer alive. And she said to us that we gave him a fighting chance going there the first time, but she didn't feel like he was going to even make it back to the ICU, because the red blood cells, that's what carries oxygen to your body. So he basically was, slowly suffocating. And so we made the decision that it was best for him that we put him to sleep, because even if we made it to that ICU, we would have had to leave him there, and I don't think he would have survived, and he would have just been in a strange place, surrounded by people, strangers basically, and it was going to be suffering for him for the rest of his life. There was going to be no easy out for here. It was some kind of leukemia. And you always dread that day when that's going to happen, about when you have to, God forbid, euthanize your animal, and you're like, how am I going to know when it's time? What if I don't want to do it too soon, but how would I know? Believe you me, when it comes time, you know. And November 20th, I just knew that it was the right thing to do. This way we were there with him. I got to hold him and love him and comfort him and tell him how much joy he brought to my life and what he meant to me, and that I would miss him for the rest of my life. There was something just really special about Marv. I don't know if it's the breed, Maine Coon, whether they're very intelligent and very loving, but he was, I have other cats, and I've had other cats throughout my life. There was something different about this cat. He was so smart. I could talk to him, and it's like he would understand what I was saying to him. Even in, if you go back and watch my last video, the giveaway video, when he pulled out a winner, and then I pulled out the name and I'm holding it up, and he's like, oh, she's doing the thing, okay, I'm out. And he leaves the kitchen, and I was like, oh, Marv, wait, we're not done. He comes right back into the kitchen and goes right back to the name. It's like, I'm telling you, there was something about that cat. He was just amazing. He showed so much love. I am devastated by this, but my girlfriend is even more so, because those two had a very special relationship. Marv loved me, but he was in love with her. No matter where he was, if she called his name, he would get up and run to her like he was a dog. And at night, he would just spoon with her all night long. It was It's crazy.
Losing myself, I can't relax. Remember all the pain I had, that shit was cap. Remember I was down on my ass, them niggas left. Now they see me.
Last week, so many of you wrote, comments that you were praying for Marv, and I appreciate that so much. Thank you. But when Heavenly Father calls you home, it's your time, and I know I'll see him again at the Rainbow Bridge. And if you guys don't know the poem, Rainbow Bridge, and you are bereft because you've lost a pet, read that poem. It really does, bring you comfort, thinking about them waiting for you on the other side. And it's really a beautiful poem. I'd read it to you now, but I'm not going to make it through that. So that's the very sad story about how we lost Marv. But now let me tell you the happy story about how we found him. My oldest brother is an absolute cat lover. He would volunteer his weekends at this cat shelter. And when I say volunteers, like, he just didn't go there and spend time. He would spend hundreds of dollars on food and cleaning supplies, bring it there, and feed all the cats, and then clean up the cages and scoop poo. He did that for many years. On his one day off a week, he went there in the mornings. The man's a saint. And I went with him a few times. Listen, nothing like him. He was there religiously every weekend. I went every now and then. And this one time I went with him, I saw this very emaciated cat. It was a Maine Coon. And I said to my brother, "Ooh, what's wrong with this one? He's like skin and bones." And my brother said, "Oh, he has worms, but they're treating him. He'll fill out. Don't worry, he'll be fine." So the shelter was a no-kill shelter. If someone brought a cat there, they would keep it until it was adopted. So I told my girlfriend, like, this place is such a wonderful place. They're really at max capacity, though. We probably should take a cat off their hands. So we went there one day to look around, and sure enough, we decide that we're going to take a couple cats. And I go right to the cage where that skinny Maine Coon was, because his face was just absolutely precious and adorable. And he was still there. He was still there, but he was not putting on weight. And I said to my girlfriend, I'm like, "Look how cute this cat is." She's like, "But he looks sick. Like, I don't want to bring a sick cat into the house." Next thing you know, he's getting our other cat sick. So we decided before we brought the cats home, we would get them checked out by a vet. So I picked him, and I immediately start calling him Starvin' Marvin. And she picks an orange cat, and we call him Stash, which is Stanley in Polish. And we eventually nickname him Pan, which means Mr. in Polish. We bring him to a vet, and we get them checked out. And come to find out that Marv doesn't have worms. What he has is a parasite. And he needs to be on a very specific medication to kill the parasite. So the vet says to me, he's like, this cat was not going to make it. He's like, it probably would have lived a day, maybe two, but that cat definitely would have died at that shelter had you not taken it to get the medication. So I feel like, Marv was probably slated to die there at the shelter. And we made an intervention which saved him from that. So we got to share in 10 years that he wouldn't have had. And we got 10 years with him. Because that cat just rained down love. And he could, if you were like in the worst mood, that cat could make you happy. There was something about the way he would just play around and just jump on you and cuddle with you and love you. That just would, no matter what kind of mood you were in, he just completely turned it all around. So we didn't just give him 10 years. He gave us 10 years too. And I will forever cherish all of the memories that I have of him. And I have so many videos of him. It's unreal. And it's been hard to watch them a little bit, but I do want to put some in this video, so I'm gonna have to force myself to watch a few to get them in here. Here is my email address. If you are one of the lucky winners, please send to me your name and your shipping address, and I will try to get the prizes out at some point this week. Well, that's gonna do it here for me today, guys, and I don't know when I'll be posting again, because I have to be honest with you, I'm just not feeling it. I mean, even just setting up the camera right now was just, I didn't feel like even, I just didn't feel it. Didn't feel like doing it. Well, that's gonna do it here for me today. Until next time, wear your sunblock.
Feel this pain no more. Loving me, it could be hard, but it ain't dangerous though. Mama told me on the one, but never lose my soul. Always taught me how to win and never lose control.